jabuku i brusnik, modru špilju, a kao značajan krajobraz zaštitili otoke Ščedro i Radnik, paklene otoke i plaže Brela, te kao posebni rezervat Pantan kod Trogira. Upravni odjel za graditeljstvo, komunalne poslove, infrastrukturu i zaštitu okoliša ove županije provodi niz aktivnosti koje za cilj imaju održavanje čistoće mora. Tako ispituju kakvoću mora na velikom broju mjesta naše županije, putem gradova i općina izgrađuju sustave odvodnje fekalnih voda, brinu se o zagađivačima i otpadu, te općenito vode računa o zaštiti prirode, posebice o zaštiti mora. Upravni odjel za pomorstvo i turizam naše županije svake godine financijski pomaže gradovima i općinama u održavanju i izgradnji pomorskog dobra koje se nalaze na njihovom području, a koje nije dato u koncesiju. Županija u proteklom razdoblju zajedno sa državom sudjelovala u rekonstrukciji i izgradnji velikog broja luka za pomorski promet kao što su Supetar, Maritime, Stari grad na Hvaru, Vis, Rogač i drugi, čime je omogućila veću frekvenciju putnika, govorimo o prilike oko 3 milijuna putnika godišnje i vozila, govorimo oko 700.000 vozila godišnje, te to naravno imalo za posljedicu manje čekanje na ukrcaj u velikoj, najvažnijoj luci, a to je luka Split. Kako je more doista prostor na kojem se aktivnosti odvijaju 24 sata dnevno, sve ovo naprijed rečeno treba imati na umu kada planiramo aktivnosti na moru, ali isto tako kada planiramo i nove investicije na pomorskom dobru kroz naše županijske prostorne planove. Održivost, to je ključna riječ, te bi sa tom riječju i završio ovaj govor s kojim sam vas htio malo više upoznati s našom županijom, te usmjeriti sve vas, dragi pomorci, sve one koji se pomorstvom bave, da se čuva more po kojem plovimo i ostavimo ga sljedećim generacijama u takvom stanju da ga oni mogu koristiti u istoj mjeri kao i mi, a sve manirom dobroga gospodara. Puno uspjeha u radu konferencije, te ugodan boravak u Solinu i u Splitsko-dalmatinskoj županiji.
Najavljujem našeg prvog govornika, gospodina Olivieja Bissoa iz Međunarodne pomorske organizacije, koji će nas upoznati s najvažnijim izmjenama i dopunama iz Manile i utjecaju istih na obrazovanje i izobrazbu pomoraca te na buduća pomorska zvanja. Ukoliko imate pitanja, suzdržite se od pitanja tijekom izlaganja, pustimo gospodina Bissoa da to izloži u kontinuitetu, a onda nakon njegovog izlaganja postavite pitanja. Gospodin Olivier Bissot.
Good morning, everybody. First and foremost, I would like to express here my pleasure to be here among yourselves, and especially in Croatia, which it has been said is important maritime economy, history, and cultural country. I would like also, on the behalf of IMO, to thank everybody who has participated to the organization of this conference. I can't list them, but I would like just to mention the Russian Maritime Administration, the faculty, the University of Split, and especially the Faculty for Maritime Studies, and especially Peruvian. A few words also to introduce myself. I am Olivier Bissot, and I am Administrator for Maritime Affairs. I'm working now at IMO since last summer, but I was previously head of the office for maritime and training and employment in France, in Paris, and where I was in charge of the implementation, among others, of the Manila amendments to the Convention and Code. I was also responsible for search and rescue in a small island, in a French island in the south of Comoros Archipelago, in the Mozambican Channel. And I was also in charge of the planification for wind farms off the coasts of Britain. I was asked to make an overview, general overview of Manila amendments, and I want to say that it's really difficult to do it in an attractive way, because Manila amendments to STCW Convention and Codes was a very huge and work to prepare, to adopt, and now to implement. STCW is, to my mind, the keystone of the maritime safety regulation structure. As you know, STCW is the international convention on standards of training, certification, and watchkeeping for seafarers, which was adopted in 1978, and is a part of this important maritime regulation structure, next to MARPOL, SOLAS, and MLC. And I say that perhaps STCW is one of the keystones of this structure, because it is addressing the human element. And the human element is perhaps the most important or the main factor in the incidents and accidents at sea. To have an idea of the important work that it represents now for administrations to implement these amendments, it can be interesting to have an idea of the number of seafarers around the world. You probably know this BIMCO survey about the statistics on seafarers, and the BIMCO survey from 2010 states that there are around 1.3 million of seafarers around the world, divided into 45% of officers and 65% of ratings. And considering the fact that one seafarer usually has several certificates, you can have an idea of the work that it represents for everybody to implement those amendments. I don't want to detail, I just want to go through the previous amendments to STCW, just to mention that STCW was regularly amended, and the main thing is to know that there is a convention and now the code divided in two parts. Part A, which is with mandatory requirements, and Part B with only recommendations. So before Manila amendments, STCW convention and code were regularly amended through STW subcommittee at IMO and MSC, Maritime Safety Committee. So the Manila amendments, why and what for? So it's important to understand that in spite of those improvements of the regulation, it became urgent to make the STCW relevant for today's requirements while anticipating future needs of shipping and trying to make it more efficient. And the choice was made in June 2008 to have a unique diplomatic conference during the Council 100 to avoid piecemeal adoption of changes. when such amendments are decided, there are intersessional working group and a shuttle between STW, the subcommittee for this matter, and MSC, which is the committee at IMO, which is in charge to endorse the decision made in STW. And the conference took place in Manila in June 2010. So these amendments are very numerous, and it's difficult to list all these amendments in the frame of this conference. But new provisions can be organized by their object into two fields. Some provisions were adopted to simplify their administration burden while strengthening their efficiency, and some other provisions were adopted to improve the requirements of the training. For instance, new definitions were adopted to avoid the use of fraudulent certificates. And as you perhaps know, there is now certificate of competency, certificate of proficiency, and documentary evidence. And what we call COC, certificates of competency, can only be issued by administration. These amendments were also the opportunity to rectify some inconsistencies. For instance, it was a case about near-coastal, the definition of near-coastal voyage, because some countries could interpret the previous definition and in a very large way. And now bilateral and multilateral agreements have to be adopted between member states when the limits of NCB are defined. The ship owner responsibility is also increased, especially to ensure that their seafarers have received refresher and updating training as is required by the convention. The revalidation requirements are rationalized for the benefit of the seafarer, because now seafarers may revalidate the certificate with 3 months in total during the preceding 6 months immediately prior to revalidating. It's an important aspect in STCW. Each seafarer has to revalidate every 5 years his certificate. It's a way to be sure that the seafarer is the level of knowledge is updated, and so that the seafarer is competent. E-learning, its regulation 1/6, is officially recognized as applicable to maritime education and training establishments, but it remains that the training centers who want to use it have to be approved by their administration. And e-learning can also be applied to shipping companies. I don't want to detail this point, but you can say that new dichotomies for tankers and passenger ships are adopted to be clear. And now we have training with 3 levels: a basic training for oil and chemical tanker cargo operation, a basic training for liquefied gas tanker cargo operations, and an advanced training for oil, chemical, and liquefied gas. The other aspect of these amendments, the other object was to improve the level of the requirement of the training, and what is called ERM and BRM, I mean engine bridge resource management and effective communication are very, very important in these amendments. Also, we can mention that proactive measures to protect marine environment were adopted. Safety and security training requirements were separated to avoid confusion, and the accent is now put on new threats, especially the piracy. New recommendations for polar navigation were adopted, and also new requirement for electrotechnical officer and electrotechnical ratings. We can also mention the disposal about ECDIS, and we can say that the revalidation scope is widened, especially to certificates for personnel sailing on tankers, for safety basic training, survival craft, rescue boats, and advanced firefighting certificates. Now in the convention and code we can find new provision so that ratings can have certificates as able seafarer deck and able seafarer engine. The last but not the least measures are to harmonize the STCW convention and code with